Social Studies, Chapter 18, Valley Forge. A hard winter, the winter of 1777 to 1778, was the worst time of the war for the Continental Army. The British had taken Philadelphia. Twice, General Washington had sent his soldiers into battle near Philadelphia. Twice, the British had defeated them. With cold weather coming on, Washington had to choose a place to camp for the winter. The place he chose was called Valley Forge, an open field about 25 miles northeast of Philadelphia. Snow was already on the ground when the soldiers arrived in Valley Forge. They put up their tents and began building huts with whatever wood they could find. Before long, they had built 2,000 of them. The huts were drafty, dirty, and cold, but at least they put a roof over the soldiers' heads. Each hut had a fireplace, but no windows. The smoke from the fires made men cough as if their lungs would burst. The winter in Valley Forge was terrible. Supplies did not arrive. Blankets were scarce. There was not enough food. With no boots or shoes, the men wrapped their feet in rags. The winter at Valley Forge could have broken the spirit of the Continental Army. General Washington later said, "You might have tracked the army to Valley Forge by the blood of their feet." An officer from Connecticut explained how bad conditions were in his journal. "It snows. I'm sick. Eat nothing. No forage. Lord, Lord, Lord. Cold and uncomfortable. I'm sick, discontented, and out of humor. Poor food. Hard lodging. Cold weather, fatigue, nasty clothes, nasty cookery, smoked out of my senses. I can't endure it. Why are we sent here to starve and freeze?" At least 2,500 soldiers died of disease or from exposure at Valley Forge that winter. That means that every single day soldiers had to bury 25 or 30 of their comrades. Some men deserted, which means they simply sneaked out of camp and went home. At the start of winter, Washington's army numbered about 7,000 men. By the end of winter, there were only about 4,000 left. A man of character. What did people mean when they said that George Washington was a man of great character? They meant he was honest. They meant that he cared for his men and that he was fair with them. They meant that people always knew where Washington stood and that he kept his word. They meant that he respected others. They meant that Washington was someone you would want on your side. Washington also knew enough to put able men in charge of important tasks. For example, in February, when things were at their worst, a balding, red-faced man appeared at Washington's headquarters to offer his services. His name was Baron Frederick von Steuben. Washington could tell that von Steuben knew how to train men to be soldiers. That was exactly what Washington needed. He hired von Steuben, the German officer, taught the men about soldiering. He drilled them over and over, and by spring, General Washington had a well-trained army for the very first time. Von Steuben was only one of a number of Europeans inspired to help the American cause. Another was a 19-year-old Frenchman named the Marquis de Lafayette. As soon as he heard that fighting had begun in America, Lafayette joined the Americans. "I am persuaded," he said, "that the human race was created to be free, and that I am born to serve that cause." Washington took a liking to this daring Frenchman, and Lafayette quickly became one of his most trusted aides.